Good morning, my dear children. This is P. Vasantakumar, social teacher from DAV High School, SDSTPS, AP Genco, Naltur. Welcome to the chapter Production and Employment, Part 1. Learning objectives of this lesson. By the end of the chapter, you will be able to define production and employment, describe the three sectors of employment. Children, first we have to know what is production. It includes the processes and methods to transform tangible inputs. What are tangible inputs? Raw materials, semi-finished goods, sub-assemblies. And intangible inputs. What are intangible inputs? Ideas, information, knowledge into goods or services. Next, what is employment? It is the occupation through which a person earns a living, work and business. Now let us learn sectors of economy. People are engaged in various economic activities. Some of these are activities producing goods, some others are producing services. These activities are happening around us every minute, even as we speak. How do we understand these all activities? One way of doing this is to group them, that is, classify them using some important criterion. These groups are called sectors. We can classify these activities on the basis nature of activity. On basis nature of activity, it can be primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. Then nature of employment. Based on nature of employment, it can be organized sector and unorganized sector. Then it is nature of ownership, and based on nature of ownership, it can be public sector and private sector. When we see sector, I refer to group activities. So what about primary sector, which is the first one? This includes many activities. Take for example the cultivation of cotton. It takes place within a crop season for the growth of the cotton plant. We depend mainly, but not entirely, on natural factors like rainfall, sunshine, and climate. So the product of this activity, cotton, is a natural product. Similarly, in the case of an activity like dairy, we depend upon the biological process of the animals and availability of fodder, etc. The product here, milk, also is a natural product. Similarly, minerals and ores are also natural products. When we produce a good by exploiting natural resources, it is an activity of the primary sector. Since most of the natural products we get are from agriculture, dairy, fishing, forestry, this sector is also called agriculture and related sector. Why should we call this is the primary sector? This is because it forms the base for all other products that we subsequently make. It is the next step after primary. The product is not produced by nature but has to be made, and therefore some process of manufacturing is essential. This could be in a factory, a workshop, or at home. For example, Using cotton fiber from the plant, we spin yarn and weave cloth. Next, using sugarcane as a raw material, we make sugar or gur. And we can convert earth into bricks and use bricks to make houses and buildings. The secondary sector covers activities in which natural products are changed into other forms through ways of manufacturing that we associate with industrial activity. Since this sector gradually became associated with the different kinds of industries that came up, it is also called as industrial sector. We will understand these two sectors better by distinguish between them. When I say primary sector, it involves extraction and production of natural resources, whereas the secondary sector, the processes natural resources. When I say primary sector, provides raw materials to the secondary sector, whereas the secondary sector convert raw materials provided by primary activities into finished or semi-finished goods. Now primary sector dependent on secondary sector to speed up production. Now secondary sector dependent on the primary sector for supply of raw materials. When I say primary sector, greater dependence on this sector indicates underdeveloped economy. Now secondary sector, a shift of economic activities from primary to secondary sectors indicates a developing economy. When I say primary sector, some examples: agriculture, mining and forestry, whereas the secondary sector, for example, manufacturing and construction. After primary and secondary, there is a third category of activities that falls under tertiary sector and is different from the above two. These are activities that help in the development of the primary and secondary sectors. These activities by themselves do not produce a good, but they are an aid or a support for the production process. For example, goods that are produced in the primary or secondary sector would need to be transported by trucks or trains and then sold in wholesale and retail shops. At times, it may be necessary to store these in godowns. We also may need to talk to others over telephone or send letters, that is a communication, or borrow money from banks to help production and trade. Transport, storage, communication, banking, trade are some examples of tertiary activities. Since these activities generate services rather than the goods, the tertiary sector is also called service sector. Now, see the following table, which shows the percentage of workers employed in different sectors in India in 1972 and 1973 and in 2009 to 2010, that is after 37 years. Year 1972 to 1973, agriculture 74%, industry 11%, services 15%. Year 2009 to 2010, agriculture 53%, industry 22%, services 25%. What are the major changes that you observe from the above table? The above table shows the declination of agriculture share in national income. From what you have read before, discuss what could be some of the reasons for these changes. There are two main causes for these changes. One is industrialization, second is more favor schemes for industrialization than agriculture. My dear children, next session we will learn about explain GDP in detail. Thank you, my dear children.